And a few other quick things we can do. We've got the cylinder selected. Let's go to BTO, our topology brush, and we'll just draw out some simple topology on here, like so. Go ahead and tap off, and that'll give me topology. If I go into solo mode here, you're going to see now we have the cylinder with topology on there. Again, let's go to just split masked points here, and now this will be a new geometry. I'm going to go ahead and turn off that start group and then put it underneath this one. We'll go to subtractive, go to solo, and now it's a subtractive mesh that we can now manipulate, or we can make it additive, or we can make it intersection, whatever we want to do. It inherited the smoothing as well, the dynamic smoothing, so if I hit Shift D, that'll go ahead and give us our actual geometry here. Let's go into solo mode on this one. And you can do extractions, you can do panel loops, anything you would normally do with this object to just manipulate it as much as you want to get this to work for you. So let's say we hover over this one here with our Z-modeler brush, BZM, hover over this face. We'll do polygroup a single poly. I'm going to tap and then hold it, and then tap Alt to get a new polygroup, tap Alt again to get a new polygroup, Alt to get a new polygroup. I can isolate these polygroups here, go into edge loop, panel loops. I'm going to turn off double, and we'll just make polygroups. I'll go ahead and turn off polish as well. And now if I hit D, we'll get that kind of look. Let's go ahead and do a crease PG, which will crease all of our polygroups. So we're getting this type of shape now. So if I turn off polyframe here, you're going to see now what's cutting in is those panel loops that we just created on this mesh on the fly. So anything you can do in ZBrush and have polygons interacting with each other. If you want to do mask and extract, if you want to do noise maker and extract, if you want to frame your mesh, insert mesh brush, array mesh, even sculpting, or even Dynamesh. So we've got this mesh here. Let's go into solo here. Let's unmask that. Let's say, you know what, let's I'll use my custom menu. Let's go to geometry. If this is getting a little bit busy, you can just go ahead and start collapsing some of these menus here. Let's go to Dynamesh, and we'll go ahead and we'll turn off blur, we'll turn off project. We'll go to crank up our resolution on our Dynamesh here. And now if we turn on polyframe, you're going to see this is a Dynamesh. I can hit Control W to make it all one polygroup. And now I can just use like the clay brush or the clay buildup brush or the clay tubes brush. Just go B, C, and choose any of these things here. Whatever you want to do, you usually use the sculpt. One thing you're going to see is when you're sculpting, it's kind of like, oh, it's really having a hard time sculpting this. I think we still have dynamic subdiv turned on. So because this is 34,000 points with dynamic turned on, it's a pretty heavy mesh because it's subdividing it 4 times. So I'm going to go ahead and turn dynamic off, and now it's a lot more responsive. So if you go out of solo mode, we still have live Boolean turned on. As we're sculpting on this mesh, you're seeing it's updating the sculpting on the fly as a subtractive mesh. Of course, you can go in here on the fly as well. It's a live Boolean, it's non-destructive, so you can change this to additive on the fly, and now you're just sculpting this and adding it to it. You can go to subtractive on the fly, and you're sculpting up through the mesh, and it's basically, it looks like it's stopping at that point because that's where the intersection between these two meshes is stopping. So you can go through here and just start sculpting and having it update in live Boolean as well. One thing I forgot to mention on that insert brush curve here, so we'll go ahead and delete that. We don't really need that anymore. Let's go out of live Boolean mode. I'm going to alt tap this cylinder one more time, and let's do another ring around this thing. So I'm going to do Shift D. I'm going to turn off dynamic subdivision, I'm going to insert a single edge loop here. And again, I'm just going to isolate this section here. We're going to go to our stroke menu, which, just grab the stroke menu, pull it over here. And we're going to frame mesh under the curve functions, and then just frame that border. Control Shift to bring everything back. And then again, we can go to BC brush curve, and we can choose curve tube. Go ahead and add that to the curve tube here. And it's like, you know what? Maybe I don't want curve tube. Let's go to BI brush insert, and we'll grab the IMM curve brush, and we'll hit M. And let's say we want to pass a coil around this. We'll select the coil, and we'll touch it. Let's go ahead and make our brush size bigger here. There we go. So now we're passing a coil around this. Or if we want to change that up, let's pass a simple hose. We'll go to brush insert, insert cylinder EXT, and then we'll go ahead and update this. And now we're getting a little bit more visual interest on our cut thing here. So if I want to get rid of this curve, I can go to delete curve functions, or I can just tap away from my mesh here to get rid of that curve. And we'll go to split masked points. And again, it made it its own start group because I inserted it on our original start group. I'm going to turn that start group off for this one. I'm going to do the bent arrow down to put it into this start group, make it subtractive, turn on live Boolean, turn off polyframe, and now we're getting a much more complex cut around there.